Thank you for joining the National Down Syndrome Society for today's webinar, Building Healthy Habits with 3-2-1 Go, Cooking and Nutrition Made Simple. We are thrilled to have you join us today. My name is Lake Murray, and I am the Health and Wellness Coordinator here at NDSS. We sent out the recipes prior to the webinar, but if you did not receive this email, you can find them on our website, and the link will be dropped in the chat. So before we dive into the content of today's webinar, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items. So if you experience any technical issues during the webinar, please use the chat function to notify our support team, and they will do their best to assist you promptly. Our presenters will answer questions at the end of the webinar. So we encourage you to submit your questions through the webinar using the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can at the end. Lastly, this webinar is intended to be a demonstration on how you can cook healthy foods at home independently as an individual with Down syndrome or together with caregivers or as a family. We will encourage you to follow along, but we will not be stopping the demonstration to repeat steps or to slow down. A recording of the webinar with the recipes will be sent out to you if you miss any steps during the demonstration. If you have any questions that we do not get to during the webinar, please email us at health@ndss.org, and you can also find that email in the chat. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So founded in 1979, the National Down Syndrome Society's mission is to empower individuals with Down syndrome and their families by driving policy change, providing resources, engaging with local communities, and shifting public perceptions. NDSS supports and advocates for the Down syndrome community by focusing on 3 key areas of programming: resources and support, advocacy and policy, and community engagement. NDSS offers a 1-800 helpline and info email box that anyone can reach out to at any time. We also develop resources and information covering birth to end of life on all topics, including education, employment, health and wellness, aging, and caregiving. NDSS advocates at the federal, state, and local levels. We develop and improve laws to positively impact people with Down syndrome across the country and affirm their human rights. The legislative agenda spans the life experience of individuals with Down syndrome. NDSS also offers scholarships and grants, leads the National Buddy Walk program and Times Square video presentation, runs the Athlete Ambassador program and the DS Ambassador program, and hosts a variety of awareness building and fundraising events throughout the year. Here are some of our upcoming events. The most upcoming one will be the Times Square video and New York City Buddy Walk on September 6th of this year. So what the Health and Wellness team does is that we offer information and resources to support individuals with Down syndrome, their families, caregivers, clinicians, and other community members. We create health-related web pages for the website, informative resources, and guidebooks. We also work on health-related advocacy with our policy team. And here are just a few examples of the resources we have created. We'll go over more of 3-2-1 Go. And I also want to highlight our Aging and Down Syndrome guidebook, our Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome guidebook, and we have a self-advocacy at medical appointments resource. The National Down Syndrome Society designed 3-2-1 Go to improve the quality of life of individuals with Down syndrome. The program equips individuals with the knowledge and skills they need to improve their health and actively engage in relationships, education, employment, and leisure. Using a behavior change model, the foundation of the program is a set of 3 daily goals and 21 additional challenges that encourage healthy lifestyle choices in physical activity, balanced nutrition, and emotional wellness. These 3 daily goals are 30 minutes of physical activity every day, eating 2 servings of each food group each day, and practicing 1 emotional wellness strategy each day. I'm going to talk a little bit later about how we can focus on that balanced nutrition goal. So the balanced nutrition portion of 3-2-1 Go is based on the USDA's MyPlate and dietary guidelines for Americans. These guidelines encourage an overall healthy dietary pattern, emphasizing the difference that small everyday changes can have on our overall health. So the guidelines encourage a variety of fruits and vegetables daily, whole grain products such as whole wheat bread, brown rice, and quinoa, low-fat dairy products such as low-fat yogurt and skim milk, lean meats such as chicken, turkey, Greek yogurt, fish, beans, fish, beans, tofu, lentils, and lean meats, water for drinking, and portion sizes that are adjusted to meet individuals' needs based on their health and wellness goals. The guideline also encourages a limit on these types of foods in your diet, such as foods and beverages with added sugars, such as soda, fruit drinks, energy drinks. And they also encourage limiting foods high in sodium, trans fat, and saturated fats. This could be deli meats, processed meats, and prepackaged food like canned soups, cookies, and muffins. Also encourage limiting alcoholic beverages. The MyPlate model is a visual way to help stick to these guidelines. 321 Go discusses the food groups and how each has benefits to our bodies. The daily 321 Go goal of 2 servings of each food group is adapted to fit this model. Research suggests that these same basic principles of a healthy diet can be beneficial for individuals with Down syndrome. There are some unique dietary considerations for individuals with Down syndrome, such as food selectivity, obesity, celiac disease, lactose intolerance, constipation, GERD, possible differences in satiety, and diabetes. You can go to our nutrition and Down syndrome webpage to learn more about these, and we also encourage you to speak with your healthcare team if you are concerned about any of these considerations. Making healthy choices can be easier when you are not doing it alone. NDSS's 321 Go program has many resources that encourage a community or family focus on healthy choices. Some of the strategies that can be used are role modeling, and trying foods multiple times. It can take many times for someone to start liking a food. Research suggests that it can take more than 20 exposures for a child with a neurodevelopmental disability to become more willing to accept a new food. It's also important to encourage autonomy by offering choices. For example, as a caregiver, you can give your loved one 2 options for a vegetable with dinner rather than saying exactly what will be for dinner. This goes along with tailoring meals and foods to an individual's preferences. This is something that is great with the dietary guidelines and 321 Go. Both are meant to serve as a framework for healthy eating, allowing room to enjoy nutrient-dense foods that reflect personal preferences, cultural traditions, and budgetary considerations. It can also be helpful to eat meals together. Next, goal setting and tracking are great strategies to help adhere to a healthy diet. Goals should be specific and include the steps we will take to achieve them. 321 Go has a weekly tracker where users earn a star for each daily goal they meet. For the balanced nutrition portion, the user gets a star for each serving of a food group they eat in a day. This can also serve as a fun reward for meeting the goal. This goes along with our next tip, which is celebrating small wins. It's important to celebrate the small steps we take in achieving our goals. Small, everyday changes add up to make big differences in our overall lifestyle. Identifying motivations can also help us achieve our goals. Lastly, a great way to encourage healthy eating is learning to cook. Cooking can be done together, which also encourages this idea of social support. Our webinar today will serve as a demonstration of how you can learn to cook and how you can cook healthy meals together. Leading our demonstration today will be Lisa Dickie and Max and Pam Crawford. Lisa is a professional educator and a self-taught chef whose passions for teaching and cooking led her to open her cooking school, Dickie's Cooking School, in 2017. Lisa offers cooking classes designed for neurodiverse adults to help them succeed at living independently. CTV profiled Lisa about her work in assisting neurodivergent adults in gaining the food knowledge skills to live independent lives. Lisa lives in Toronto with her 2 adult-ish children and her loving but slightly neurotic rescue dog. For more information on Lisa's programs, please contact Lisa. Her email will be available now and at the end, and we'll also drop a link to her website. Max Mix is a gourmet spice blend company, creating spice rubs as a gift for families and friends, turned into a mission to live an independent life. Founder, Max Crawford, is a young man with big passions and dreams. In addition to wanting a fun and meaningful job, he loves sports, music, and has a black belt in Taekwondo. To learn more about Max Mix, you can go to their website, the link will also be put in the chat. I am now gonna stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Lisa and Max for our cooking demonstration.
Hi everyone, my name's Lisa Dickie and I'm really excited to be cooking with you today. We're going to be making three things together. I'm going to make a chicken kebab with some veg and some pineapple, a napa and quinoa salad, and Max and Pam are going to make some sweet potato fries. So I'm just going to go over a few things for our kebab recipe. You can use a variety of vegetables. What I have here is I'm using some pineapple, as I said, some zucchini, some purple onion, and some red pepper. And it's really it's really great to have a variety in a kebab. And you can really sort of think about when you're building a kebab, if you kind of think using vegetables or colors that would be part of the rainbow. So you've got this really great range of ingredients. For the protein today, I'm using chicken breast. Boneless, skinless chicken breast is an excellent source of protein. If you didn't want to use chicken breast, or if you had boneless, skinless chicken thighs, that is excellent as well. Its thighs have slightly less protein and a little bit more fat, but that would absolutely be a great alternative. What we're going to do for our chicken is we're going to marinate it, and we're going to use some olive oil. And I've got a spice mix here. So we're going to combine olive oil, lemon juice for an acid. If you didn't have lemon juice, you could also use vinegar. All that does is that's going to help to tenderize the chicken. And then once you've got that acid in there, by adding some flavoring, and in this case, we're going to add the Max Mix poultry seasoning, a little bit of Dijon mustard, and a little bit of honey. So I'm just going to quickly mix this together. One thing about your chicken pieces, you definitely want your pieces to be about the same size. You're looking at about a 1 inch cube. It's the most important thing about having them the same size is that so they'll cook evenly. So if you have a little tiny piece and then a big piece, the big piece might not be fully cooked and the tiny piece might get overcooked. Having said that, as a general rule, to cook chicken, if you set your oven temperature at 400 degrees, boneless, skinless chicken, whether it's on a skewer or not, is going to cook in about 20 minutes. Chicken with the bone in is going to cook in about 40 minutes. And I'm going to quickly whisk up this marinade, but I also wanted to mention that if you wanted your chicken to be even more flavorful, you could actually marinate it up to 4 hours or even overnight. So, but we're just going to do a quick marinade and get it going. So I'll just move this over so you can see it. Hold this up so you can see it in just a moment. So in this bowl, and I'll show it in just a moment, we're going to get our spices and our honey and our mustard. Now I'm going to add my lemon juice. And then I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Then I'm just going to give it a quick mix. And that's all there is to that. And I'll put that on the chicken when it's time to put it in the oven. I'm going to roast my chicken in a baking sheet, and I'm going to line my baking sheet with parchment paper. So I'll show you that in just a moment. One thing I wanted to mention is you can use parchment paper or a silicone mat. My preference is to use parchment paper, and you can see here I've like actually mashed it into a ball. But before I mashed it in the ball, I actually ran it under warm water, or you can use cold water. And the reason I'm doing that is that when I put this on my baking sheet, and I'm going to cook it on a rimmed baking sheet, it looks kind of scuzzy, but it'll work. When it's mashed up like that, that allows me to push the parchment paper right into the corners so that the marinade, there's some honey in that marinade. If it slips underneath, it's going to get really sticky and yucky to work with, or you're going to have to, it's going to be something a lot to clean up. So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to get my parchment paper on here. I'll get it shoved into the corners, and I'll move my tray around so you can actually see the finished product. And I'm going to lay that down. And now I'm just going to start to build my skewer. So I've got my skewers here in just a mason jar with water. And the reason you put them in the water is so the skewers don't dry out. But the other thing that they do is when the skewers soak up some water, once it's cooked, that water is actually going to be drawn out and into your veg and your chicken. So it actually serves as a moisturizer. Similarly, the parchment paper that has a bit of water on it would also moisturize it. So when it comes to building your skewer, it really doesn't matter what sequence you do or what order. It's just going to be your own thing. So here I'm just going to start. I'll just pull one skewer together for you. I've got some zucchini, some pepper, the pineapple is really lovely on a skewer because it gives that nice sweetness. You could also add some nice, if you like it spicy, you could put some hot spice in that in your marinade, and that would be really great with the pineapple. There's our skewer there. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of marinade on top. If you were to do this whole recipe yourselves, two things is that you could actually just cook your sweet potatoes right with your chicken, right on the same baking sheet. And for the temperature, there's a slight difference in temperature. The chicken is cooked at 400 and the sweet potato fries are cooked at 425. You could either cook it all at 400 and then you could leave the sweet potato fries in if you want them to caramelize a little bit more, or you could just split the difference and cook it all at 420 or 410. So I'm just going to add my marinade on top of that. And then of course, I just want to draw attention to a few things. I have been putting my hands in chicken and then in veg. So all of these veg and all of this veg and chicken have to be cooked. And then finally, I'm going to have to really scrub my hands. Anytime you're handling raw chicken, you need to really scrub your hands in between. And so I'm just just a reminder about that. Now, before we go over to Max, I'm just going to remind you we're going to make some quinoa for our Napa salad. And so I'm just going to show you what you're going to do for the quinoa, and then I'll show you how to build the salad after. So your quinoa is just is a really great grain to use to cook with. It's an excellent source of protein. It's an excellent source of fiber, and it cooks up in about 15 minutes. I just have it in this little pot here. You can add a little bit of salt, and you're either going to cover it with soup stock, like chicken stock or vegetable stock for extra flavor, or with water. Bring it to boil, and then you're just going to allow it to simmer for about 10 or 15 minutes. What happens is the little grains will burst out, and then you just drain it and you can throw that in your salad. It is an excellent source of, like I said, protein and fiber, and it is really, really great for digestion. So now that my chicken is ready to go, I'm going to just preheat my oven to 400, and this will be ready in 20 minutes. And I think it's time to pass it over to Max to show us how to make sweet potato fries.
Hi, I am Max Crawford, and this is Omar Pam. Thanks for inviting us to be here today.
Hey, we're so excited to cook with you today, and we are going to make one of Max's favorites, roasted sweet potatoes. So, all right, Max, what kind of equipment did you get here and get ready?
We got Imperial cutting board, a knife, or use a chopper.
Right, you can use a chopper too to help you. All different kinds of ways to cut things up. And what vegetable do we have here today?
We got a sweet potato.
Excellent. So besides a raw sweet potato, what else can you use?
Or we could use it frozen.
Right? That's okay. Yeah, just leave it. Yeah, frozen, or sometimes you can even buy
Pre-chop.
pre-chop. Yeah. Easy.
Easy peasy.
Okay, let's get cooking.
Let's get cooking.
Great. So if you're using a raw sweet potato, you can start by peeling it sometimes, or you can leave the skin on. And if you leave the skin on, that will give you some extra fiber. And Max, you've already started chopping. Great. So if you are chopping, you can use a knife, like we said, or there's also a chopper you can use. But the most important thing is, as you're cooking together,
Yeah.
it's okay to
ask help.
Right. Ask for help if you need it. That's great. Okay. So now that we have these chopped, we've already got some in our bowl here. What do we do next?
Next, add it to the bowl.
Right. So go ahead and I'll let you do that. We're going to get everything in there. And then after you add it to the bowl, what do you put in?
Now we put it in a pan.
We've got to add your
Add the olive oil.
right. Add some olive oil. Okay.
And then we add the max mix, steak mix. Shake it for me.
Shake it for me. Max mix, steak mix. So that's fun. You've got some smoked paprika in there,
Mm-hmm.
a little garlic, crushed red pepper.
Yes.
But it's not spicy. It's just bold. So now what do you do?
Now we stir it up.
Yep. Get it all mixed in. That's great. Sweet potato is a vegetable, so this will count as one of your vegetable servings for the day. Okay, so once it's stirred,
Then we stir it.
what's next?
Put it in the pan.
Right, put it on the pan. Keep the spoon. Why don't you keep the spoon while I move this over? Great, and kind of like Lisa mentioned, we've already pre-lined our pan with parchment paper. Just makes the cleanup so much easier. Okay, and
now we spread it.
spread it out. Get it nice and even so everything cooks even. That's looking great.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what do we bake it at?
We bake it at 425
Right, for
degrees for 40 minutes.
okay, right. So after you've got that all spread out, you take it to the oven. And guess what? We cooked them ahead. So we've got some already here, already cooked. So you can see how they look. Now what is it time to do?
It's time to taste it.
Yeah, so give it a taste. Nice. So again, sweet potatoes, your vegetable, this could be your vegetable serving for the day. They're packed with vitamins. What vitamins?
From A and C.
Yep, vitamin A and C. So to help us stay healthy, keep us from getting sick, but then also a great source of fiber, right?
Mhm.
Which will help us digest our food. So
Thanks for cooking with us. Now back to Lisa.
Okay, everyone, we're going to wrap up this recipe now. So now we're just going to talk about our salad. I'm using Napa cabbage for the salad. And the reason this is like one of my favorite leaves to use for a salad. For two reasons. One, it's a really hearty leaf. So if you make a big salad, it's actually great for leftovers. The leaves are going to be strong enough that if you dress it, and you go to eat it the next day, they're not going to be super soggy and limp. The other thing about this cabbage is it's part of the cruciferous vegetable family. So that's like cauliflower and cabbage. And so it's a really healthy vegetable. It's got lots of vitamins and minerals, and it's a really good source of fiber as well. So into our salad today, and again, you could play around with this combination. We're going to add some feta cheese. That's going to be some dairy. And then I'm just going to show you as best I can what the quinoa looks like when it does cook up. So I don't know how close I can get. So maybe that's not close enough, but I'm just going to tell you, you know that it's cooked when you get this little like white ring around the grain. It just sort of bursts. You don't have to be too anxious about it. It's going to cook in about 15 minutes. I've actually used quinoa in a salad with raw spinach, and if I actually put the quinoa on this when it's hot on the spinach, it actually kind of wilts the spinach really nicely. The other thing I'm going to add to my salad is some tomatoes. Believe it or not, they're from my garden. It's probably the only 20 things I've ever grown in my life. So that's kind of a big deal. So I'm going to add those in. And then I'm going to make a simple dressing with olive oil, oregano, and some salt and some lemon juice. Now, if you wanted to, this salad, you could, of course, add anything you want to it. You could add olives to it. You could add nuts to it if you wanted to add a little bit more crunch, some protein and some fiber, onions. You could even, if you wanted to turn this into a full meal, you could add some of your chicken right into the salad. But we're going to keep it simple today and just get this salad done. So once you get a Napa cabbage, you're just going to take the outside leaves off, and then we're just going to slice it into some pretty easy little rings. So I'm just going to move it so you can actually see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to grab the end and I'm just going to cut off some rings. And then I'm just going to give that a quick little rough chop. That looks like a good amount. Get that in the bowl. We're going to add our feta. Our tomatoes. And then I'll toss that in just a moment. And now for our dressing, I've got some oregano, some lemon juice, some oil. Just give it a pinch of salt. And then a quick little whisk. As a general rule, when you're making dressing, you want about 2 or 3 parts oil. So that could be 2 or like, and then 1, maybe 2 parts acid. So your oil could be olive oil, avocado oil, canola oil, you name it. And your acid could be lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, wine vinegar, a little bit of balsamic. That's your general ratio. And then you could add honey to that if you wanted. You could add Dijon mustard to that, or of course you could add herbs to that. And the last thing is before you dress it, give it a little taste, make sure it tastes the way you want it, and then adjust it. So I'm going to give that a nice coat. And then I'm just going to toss that up. I want to make sure the quinoa is really mixed in. Quinoa is one of those ingredients that you could add into a salad, you could add into soup. It doesn't really have much in the way of flavor, but in terms of what it offers nutritionally, it's fantastic. Really great protein, really great fiber. So it's a really handy thing to keep on hand. And you can just basically use it if you want to like supercharge your recipes with a bit of protein and fiber. It's a great thing to have, and it really doesn't take long to cook. So now that we've got the salad done, let's just take a peek at what our whole meal is going to look like. a little. So like Max and Pam, I also pre-made my skewers. So if we look at this plate and we consider the our plate model from 3, 2, 1, go, we've got this beautiful portion of vegetable here and our sweet potato. Then of course we've got all the bonus vegetable in our skewers, and then we've got a protein portion with our meat, and we've also got more vegetable with our salad, some dairy, and more protein because we're using quinoa. So this is an easy meal to make. It's really a meal that you can make comfortably in about 40 minutes. Great for leftovers, and a really great example of an easy, nutritional, very balanced meal.
Thank you so much for this demonstration, Max and Lisa. These were great examples of how we can get each of our serving of the food groups and end up getting all 5 food groups in that meal at the end. So if you enjoyed this demonstration and want to continue cooking classes, I know a lot of local groups around the country offer cooking classes, so I encourage you to see if your local group does. Lisa also offers virtual cooking classes, and her next class starts on September 9th, and you can sign up using the link that will be put in the chat shortly. She also will offer groups classes specific for a group. So if you are part of an affiliate group or a local organization that's interested in offering a class to the community, please reach out to Lisa. Another great resource to learn to cook is the Accessible Chef. Accessible Chef is a collection of free visual recipes and other resources to help teach cooking skills to individuals with disabilities. You can view over 300 visual recipes at the link that we put in the chat shortly. Now we have some time for questions and discussion. So if you have any questions for Max and Pam or Lisa, please go ahead and you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom. We did get a couple questions come through, so I'll go ahead and start with some of them now. Pam and Max, at the beginning, you showed a chopper as an easy way to make an adaptation to cutting. Do you have any other gadgets that make cooking safer and more fun? Or Lisa, you can jump in as well.
One thing that we like to use is a spiralizer. So we didn't bring that today, but a spiralizer is a fun way to cut things without a knife. So you can slide your veg on, spin it, and then it makes some nice noodles that we use.
Yeah.
So that's definitely another way. There's also a knife guard that we have. So sometimes we have a little guard that we have to, you put your fingers in it and it has a little shield. So you can use that shield. And then if your knife slips, it'll slip on the shield.
Oh.
And then Lisa, you might have some other suggestions as well.
The only other suggestion I have, although I haven't had an opportunity to test it with someone with limited fine motor, but the knives that are like, there's an L-shaped knife, so you are able to hold the handle. Here, if I can make it, imagine this is a knife, so you hold the handle like this, and it gives you more, you have more strength to chop with it. Having said that, I've just read reviews on that, and so I have a couple of students who have a little bit of difficulty with grip, and so I kind of want to test it with them before I suggest this is a great knife.
Yeah, those are all super helpful suggestions. I've heard of the knife as well, but I haven't seen any reviews about it. So Lisa, that'd be great to hear more about that.
There's also a knife that looks it's a bowed, the bottom is bowed, and you cut by rocking it back and forth. So it allows you to grab onto the top handle and you can rock it. So if you're thinking about trying to break down something like an onion or garlic or carrots and celery, you can kind of push it back and forth like that. It's for the finer movements I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Um,
Another
Sorry, I just want to say one other thing. For other things, like if you want, for onions, you can. I was really skeptical, and someone said, "Oh, I just buy chopped onions in the freezer section." I actually didn't even know they existed, and so I gave them a whirl. And that is so not you couldn't use it for kebab, but if you're ever doing like a soup or a stew or anything where you need to have your onions diced, getting them from the getting frozen diced onions is a really great alternative.
That's great. Kind of speaking of gadgets and adaptive tools, are there any cooking skills for someone just learning their way around the kitchen that you would recommend as a good starting place? Max, this can be for you, how your cooking journey started, or Lisa, from things you've learned from your classes.
Yeah, so I would say if you're cooking on when you're starting to cook on your own, there are a few ingredients that you're just going to use over and over again, unless you don't like them. But onions, learning how to chop an onion um, easily is going to save you a lot of time. And it's just it's that's going to be one of the key things to learn. And I can send you a little link. I've got a little tutorial on how to cut it. The other thing is, I would say the best place if you're just learning to start to cook is absolutely start with something that you're really dying to make, like where because you're going to be so motivated to cook it. So something that you're familiar with and you're really interested in making, because when after you make it, you can compare it to your recollection of the recipe. And also it gives you something to work toward. But I feel like if you start with one recipe and then once you have 2 or 3 recipes that you're comfortable with, then you can branch out.
Great. Max, did you have anything that you learned to cook at the beginning when you were first learning to cook that you thought was a really great place to start?
Oh, speaking of things that you like to make, you started making that dip?
I started mm, my favorite dip called Dirty Dip with Max Mix, the sausage, tail, cream cheese. Then we have a steak mix on it.
Ooh.
But if you want mm, 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 brown
Yep. So browning the sausage. So
meat sausage.
yeah. So kind of starting with some limited ingredients, then something that you really like to eat. So it made it even more fun, like you said, Lisa, to cook it.
Yeah.
And doing it together was a good way to start too.
It's
So,
fun.
Yeah, that's great how that went together, how starting with something you really want to make. Yeah, that's a great place to start. Kind of, Pam, you mentioned cooking together a lot. We had a question come through from someone who said, as a caregiver, they sometimes struggle to find the balance between encouraging independence while also providing support. So, do you have any tips or practices for how caregivers can step back and foster independence while still being able to provide support?
yeah. So I think one idea is kind of to do things gradually. So we did a lot of cooking side by side, and we still do cooking side by side. So I'll be chopping the zucchini or slicing it up, and I'll start with half and I'll give the other half to Max, and he'll start slicing it up. So kind of do it together. And then I think it's about getting comfortable and building your skills. So as you're more comfortable, you could slice the whole zucchini, for example. So I think just taking it in small steps is a great way. And then kind of then to the next level, assigning like, okay, you're in charge today of the salad. So you make the salad however you want to make it, and then I'll be doing the protein. So kind of just another kind of progression as cooking together. So, but those are some ideas. Lisa, you might have some ideas as well.
I think those suggestions are excellent. The only other thing I would say, just from the different, either running a cooking class or when my kids were teenagers or like 12 or 13, is where I would get into trouble if it would be 5 o'clock or 5:15 and we're trying to have dinner for 6 and then they want to help and it's like I'm starving. And so you have to, when you're starting something out, try not to try to consider, okay, I've been cooking for 30 years, so I can do this in this many minutes. So someone brand new is going to take more time. So really try to be as patient as you can. And then if you think it would normally take you 30 minutes to make a meal, then really like double or triple the amount of time. So if it's a weeknight when you've got some extracurricular to go right after dinner and you're going to be rushed and maybe crabby and hungry, that's not a great environment to learn a new skill. Because if you're not going to, your stress is not going to be a secret at all.
That's a really great suggestion.
Yeah, also, like you can kind of build it up, like going to the supermarket if your child is interested in a vegetable, sort of like open it up to sort of gradually give a little bit more choice and freedom to try things or to have them, what would you like to make? And then, but definitely set it up if you're the caregiver that you feel calm, you're ready, you're not rushed, you don't have, you're okay with it taking a bit of extra time, because it's those early battles that kind of create this environment where it's stressful, and that is going to discourage your child from wanting to do it again.
And meal
We have
planning.
a couple.
Yeah, so one more thing, kind of to that point, is that now Max will help with actually meal planning. So we'll sit down
Yeah.
for the week, figure out what we want to make, and then on the days that we're really busy, I might take those days, the days we have more time. Max will take those days, but then actually Max coming up with the menu. So that's a great skill and a path to independence there as well.
Yeah, that's excellent that you guys plan the meals. I think that the biggest step if you're planning meals for the week is to look at the first thing you have to look at is your schedule. Like how busy is your week? When do you come home? Like when is it reasonable? What days are the best days for a super easy meal?
That's a great suggestion. I know the USDA My Plate has a bunch of resources. The link to that will be in the slides that will be sent out after, but one of the resources they have is how to eat healthy in an affordable way, and meal planning is a really big part of that. So yeah, a great suggestion on a lot of different accounts. We have a couple specific questions that came through. Lisa, I know you were using your hands to cut the chicken, but I know gloves are an option to do that instead. But would you have any recommendations or suggestions on if someone's having a hard time finding gloves that fit smaller hands?
Oh, well, I think I think that when you purchase, I mean, obviously you could go for the smallest size. There's a few different materials that are used for gloves. So some are kind of like plastic bags, and so they don't have a lot of stretch and give, and they can be kind of floppy and they can burst. But if you get some that have um like a little bit of elastic in them, like I don't know if that has a little bit of silicone in it or if a little bit of latex, and they will, so if your hands are smaller, I have the opposite problem. My hands are like the size of a catcher's mitt, so nothing fits my hands. So if your hands are smaller, if it's got some elastic quality, you can wrap them. They'll have a little bit more stickiness on your hands, or they'll fit better like a glove. In terms of where to get them, I'm sorry, I don't like the way gloves feel, so I don't use them, even though they do look better. But the other thing I would say is if you have anything local, like a restaurant supply or a kitchen supply, then I would go there. And if you can have the option of even just like trying them on.
That's a great suggestion. The next question is for Max, which is, do you have any new spices or ideas for new spices in the future, if you can say?
We do have a full brand.
Right. We did just come out with a new one.
It's called Mad Dog Magic Barbecue Brand.
Mad Dog Magic Barbecue Blend. So it's a
Smoky,
little sweet
with
barbecue.
sweet barbecue.
And it's great on
On
vegetables as well as meats, right? So
vegetables
yeah.
and barbecue.
Yeah, and making barbecue.
Yeah, and that's
And
your
then-
fourth spice, correct?
That's
Yes, correct.
Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can find Max Mix. Maybe we can put the link to Max Mix in the chat one more time. Yeah, they're great. I have some of my own as well, which I'm very appreciative of. Lisa, the next question's for you. Is there anywhere that people can find your recipes online or just by taking your classes?
Well, I mean, I often post recipes. If you follow my Instagram, if I post a reel, I often have a recipe included in that. And having said, and of course, you can take them through the course as well. But if anybody is interested, if you contact me through my website and you're like, oh, I think there are if you contact me through your website and you ask me, I'm looking for a few easy recipes, I have a huge resource. I've been cooking. I've had this school for 8 years, so I have a large body of recipes that are either vegan or vegetarian or gluten free, or they have all the things, meat, butter, and eggs in them. So you can just contact me.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll put your contact info in the chat one more time as well, and that'll be included in our follow-up email, your website and everything, in case people miss it in the chat. Speaking of, Lisa, you mentioned having vegetarian options. Someone asked a question about 3-2-1 Go and how dietary constraints are about 3-2-1 Go. So I'll take this question. But 3-2-1 Go considers dietary restrictions. So I know some people might have celiac disease. The program guide that is available to download for free on the website goes over how to find a gluten-free label on certain foods and also some gluten-free options, gluten-free grain options like quinoa, which we made today. And it overall encourages you, if you think you may have a dietary restriction, to consult with your healthcare team. So thank you for that question. We did have another question come through, which, if this can go to anybody, but if you have any tips, that might be helpful to assist someone with a developmental disability to transition from one activity to then cooking or learning to cook meals, if you've had any positive experiences with that.
Well, if because transitions typically can be a pretty tricky stage. So I would suggest, so like just as an example, if someone's watching TV and it's time to make dinner, give them like the halfway mark. Like in 15 minutes, we're going to turn it off, and then don't immediately go. So say the TV goes off, and then theoretically in your mind, you're like, okay, we're going to start cooking right away. That's probably not going to work out. So then give like 5 or 10 minutes in between. So it's like, okay, get your apron on, go wash your hands, let's get the ingredients out. So you're not going from one activity to just plowing right into the second one. So there's lots of warning. And within that transition, if you could give some opportunities to make some choices, so it's not just you're doing this now. Anyway, Pam, I bet you've got a lot of suggestions.
Those are great suggestions. A lot of times, like, sometimes, we'll just make a schedule for the day, hey, here's what we're doing. at this time, this time, this time. Max really enjoys wearing his watch. He also uses his calendar and his phone. So we love following schedules at our house. So I think those are great. And it is kind of like, well, we're going to do this now, then next we're going to do this, and next we're going to do this. And always having a choice is fun too. Okay, we're going to get ready to cook. We're done with this. Do you want to get your apron on first, or should we pull the ingredients out first? So, having, some opportunities to kind of empower them to kind of take ownership and initiative in the process as well. So, but it's always a trial and error. So you got to try something. If that doesn't work, just try something else.
Those are great suggestions, Pam.
It sounds like persistence and patience have been a theme so far.
I think the idea of having a schedule for certain things makes sense, like having a posted, this is what's happening today. That's really smart.
Yeah, these are all really great suggestions. We have time for one or two more questions, so if you'd like to get a last minute question in there, please let us know. We did have one come through for Lisa, but Pam and Max, if you have any suggestions, what are some easy swaps to make meals healthier without losing flavor?
Well, first, I really love adding whole grains, or my favorite way to add to boost health to a meal is particularly when it comes to a soup or a stew or even a mashed potato, is white Romano beans or white kidney beans. I like all legumes, split peas, lentils, all of those things. But white Romano beans are, once you strain them, they're super creamy. So if you're making a soup or a stew, or like I said, if you're making mashed potatoes, they can be added into them. And once you mash them or puree them, they get absorbed. Like I call it an ingredient that doesn't cost you anything. Sometimes you can add something to something and you're like, it's healthier, but it tastes like garbage, so I'm not going to eat it anyway. So what's the point? So when you get a can of those white Romano beans, you can buy them dry as well, but it's not like a last minute thing. It requires more effort. You get them in a can, you strain them. They're great in dips, and I love them in soup. The other ingredient I would say is a red lentil. I'll just show you what it looks like. These little red lentils, they cook in about 20 minutes. I also add them to lots of soups. I would add them to a tomato sauce. They just burst. They don't add much in the way of flavor. I think if you'd have to, you wouldn't, I don't think you'd notice it if it was in a tomato sauce, for example. And in both cases with the white Romano beans or the red lentils, excellent source of protein, excellent source of fiber. These are dry, and you can they cook, like I say, in 20 minutes. And they're both, like, these red lentils are really inexpensive. And I mean, in Canada, a tin of white Romano beans is about $1.69. So I think that they're a great way to add a boost that isn't going to ruin the meal.
That's great, all great suggestions. I love the idea of simple swaps. Like I know 3-2-1-GO talks about swapping pasta for whole wheat pasta to try to get more whole grains in your diet, and little things like that can really add up over time.
Oh, for sure.
It's great. Max, Pam, did you want to add anything to that question?
Well, I
Yes.
think one thing that we swap, which is not really a swap, but we'll add spice to stuff, right?
Yeah.
As we're making veggies, there's something to be said for, keeping things simple. And I think all of the Max mixes are pretty simple. There's no sugar, no MSG,
No flavors, no sugar, no MSG.
and they're gluten free.
Yeah.
just like the sweet potatoes, you know, it's a vegetable. Some people might be scared of vegetables, or vegetables might not be their thing, but you never know with adding just a little flavor, whether it be a dried spice or we also love fresh herbs can help. So it's not so much a swap, it's just a pump it up. So pump up the volume with a little flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think that is a great way to end the webinar today. So again, thank you so much, Pam, Max, and Lisa. We all hope you learned a lot today during the webinar. Your feedback is really important to us, so there will be a survey that pops up on the screen once the webinar ends. Please feel free to leave your feedback. If you have any further questions or comments, you can reach us at health@ndss.org.